expressed or implied of WGSO 990 AM or North Shore Radio Incorporated.
All right, New Orleans, welcome to the Jack Clegg Show. This is the Tuesday morning edition. You're listening to WGSO 990 AM. You could be listening to WGSO.com, our audio podcast, or YouTube, the Jack Clegg Show, where you can hear us and see us and laugh at us and do whatever you want to do. Okay, today's show is actually, we're preceding another show I'm doing later today. At 9:30 tonight, I am co-hosting the second debate show of the year. We did a debate show on June 27th between President Biden and Donald Trump, and most of the Western world has thanked our show for the fact that President Biden dropped out because of our analysis. It was so searing. No, if you watched it, you saw, and it's not a surprise. It went horrible for President Biden. What resulted from that, we're going to see tonight. Okay, so at today's show, we're going to talk about some of the critical issues. And as I sat the last few days since last Thursday's show, thinking, if I was on that ABC panel, the questioners, what exactly would I get at? And there's 100 different issues you could go at. And my conclusion was, let's be real. What's today? Today is September 10th. This is 9/11 Eve. 9/11, for most Americans over 30 years old, is seared in their memory. And I say 30 because it happened 23 years ago. So if you were a 7-year-old, this happened to you. So, and you were aware of it. You were in school, and then all of a sudden you weren't in school. It was something that came as a complete and utter shock to Americans. And we were talking before the show, I was talking with my producer, Patty, and BJ Russ was in here. And we were saying, where were you on September 11th and how it affected you? And Patty was in the Mouse Land. You were in Orlando, Disney World. And BJ was working in St. Louis. The place he worked at was a Circuit City at that time. And it was a few blocks away from the St. Louis airport. And I asked him, I said, did they do anything? He goes, not really, But what did happen is all flights were grounded for 72 hours. And perhaps later, if I'm asked, I'll tell you, I had one of the most exciting and interesting adventures. I was under the Hudson River on a train in a tunnel going from New York to Philadelphia when the first plane hit. And I was stuck in Philadelphia for about 4 days before I could get a rental car to drive back to New Orleans. I'll tell you that it's a fascinating story, but I may be interested in your stories if you have one that's fascinating. So we're going to talk about that. Why? Because what we learned from 9/11, at least what I learned from reading the 9/11 Commission report and from knowing what happened, these are questions that are very, very relevant today and should be asked by the ABC interrogators of both Trump and Harris tonight. Specifically, okay, I'm going to go through a little bit of it just to jog your memories and see if you too believe that this event, where we are today versus where we are then, is as if we didn't pay any attention to what happened. I'll pick the number one item on 9/11 19 terrorists got into America. How'd they get in? Well, they didn't cross over the southern border. They actually used visas. They came to visit. And the visas were issued, no problem. The 9/11 Commission that studied what happened, how did this go wrong? How did we get 19 Middle Eastern radical Muslims, many of whom the CIA knew were attending the training camps? They had devoted themselves to hating America and Israel. And they came to America, flew into Los Angeles. Two of them, there's a great case study about two of them who were two of the guys who died on the second plane that hit the World Trade Center. These guys bought cars, leased apartments, took flying lessons using their own names. The CIA knew their names because they got the list of people who were at these terrorist training centers in the Middle East. So we knew who they were, but we didn't follow them. So let's look at what, if you were a terrorist. Now, this plan hatched by bin Laden, who was really the money man here, the fellow who actually did it, Sheikh Mohammed, this plan was about 5 years in the making. And we know that because we've talked to the people that were involved and so forth. We have their testimony. This was planned. Okay, so how did they plan to come in the United States? Well, they were going to use visas, student visas, visiting visas, other visas that are issued. We had never had a terrorist attack. So I don't blame the visa system, but their names were on CIA watch lists. And it never informed the FBI. So we have partly ourselves to blame. Okay, now let's go 23 years ahead. September 10th, right? 2024. How many potential terrorists do we have in the United States today? Nobody knows. We don't even know who's here. We don't know their full names. We don't know their fake names. We don't know anything about them. I mean, did we not learn anything from 9/11? Well, when I say we, do the people that have been running our government for the last 3 or 4 years, including Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden, what did we do about the threat that foreign terrorists who come into the United States pose to Americans? If you don't remember, there were 2,750 American citizens killed when those buildings collapsed. They were killed. Over 400 policemen and firemen were also killed trying to help. Okay, this was no small thing. We went to war. Many, many Americans gave their lives going to war in the Middle East. All of this happened. And then all of a sudden, in 2020, when Biden is elected, we decided we're going to have collective amnesia. We don't need to know who's coming across our borders. We don't need to know this stuff. And millions of people come across. Okay, we're going to get back to this topic when we get back, and we'll get to some callers. We have them online. This is the Jack Clegg Show. We'll be back in a few moments.
Hi, I'm Huck, an active Christian who loves Louisiana. One of my goals is to bring Louisiana's education from 50th to number 1.
And I'm Dave. I'm not afraid of government bureaucrats. I fear God. Our rights and freedoms come from Him.
This is Liberty or Lockdown. Please join us on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com.
Hi, this is Kevin Carr, host of Fat Guys at the Movies. Listen every Sunday at 8 p.m. on WGSO 990 AM, the community voice of the Crescent City.
Get up early on Saturdays and talk LSU athletics with us. Tiger Rag Radio every Saturday morning, 5 to 7 on WGSO, the community voice of the Crescent City.
Got your license to grill? Call Chew on This, Saturdays at noon on WGSO, and tell us all about it. Don Clement and Patty B are waiting to hear your cooking secrets.
WGSO 990 AM is the only locally owned and operated talk station in New Orleans. We feature 20 local hosts discussing a variety of topics. In an era when the daily newspaper is being discontinued and our competitors are out-of-state media conglomerates, we ask you, our listeners, to support local programming on a local station. To advertise or sponsor one of our great shows, contact me at jeff@wgso.com or call 504-669-6076.
Real Talk with Revolution is back. This is Effie, and I've brought along some new friends.
Nikki D here. We'll be talking real estate, real life, and everything in between.
Please join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on WGSO 990 AM and streaming live at WGSO.com.
Hi there, everybody. This is Jackie Gumbo inviting you to join me each and every Sunday from 5 to 6 p.m. for Uncle Jackie's Gumbo. A little bit of this and a whole lot of that each and every Sunday from 5 to 6 p.m. only on WGSO 990 AM New Orleans or WGSO.com. Bring your gumbo, baby. We're going to have us a blast.
Get ready, Greater New Orleans. The Great Southern Gun and Knife Show is coming for 2 days only, September 14th and 15th at the Punch Train Center on Williams Boulevard. Show hours, Saturday 9 to 5, Sunday 10 to 5. Hundreds of dealer tables available, full of guns, knives, ammunition, holsters, gun books, camouflage, jewelry, and more. That's the Great Southern Gun and Knife Show, September 14th and 15th at the Punch Train Center. Show hours, 9 to 5 on Saturday, 10 to 5 on Sunday. Don't miss it.
All right, New Orleans, welcome back to the second segment of the Jack Clegg Show. And we're going to get to our callers in just a minute. I'm going to tee up. There's two other issues I wanted to talk about. I'm still hopefully anticipating that someone will ask who made the decision, and Vice President Harris, while you were there, who made the decision to allow all of these people to come into the United States without being vetted when we're only 20 some years past 9/11? And last October 7th, we see that these terrorists are still bound and determined to destroy Israel and the United States. Okay. Another issue I want to talk about is, and Patty and I were talking about this during the break, and we're both completely befuddled by the silence of women's groups. Now, women's groups they're not silent by nature. Oh no, they'll get out and argue the things that they really believe in, like a woman's choice, my body, my choice. They'll do all these things about abortion. They'll do this, they'll do that. And they have a right to do so. Okay. Why are they silent about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's changes to Title IX, which essentially let 6'3", fully endowed, strapping young men take their clothes off in a women's locker room? And they have a right to do that. And the women's groups are not completely up in arms. Why and how has our presidency been hijacked by the idea that there aren't two sexes? No, that's not what's important. What's important are the fictitious gender roles that people think they now serve. And I hope that Title IX is one of the questions that is asked tonight, that how can you actually destroy women's sports in front of our eyes and not expect Americans to say, what are you talking about? Final topic tonight, or today, I'm sorry, is a topic I found this morning doing research. The Soviet Union, no longer the Soviet Union, it's now Russia, right? They are inviting Westerners to come live in Russia. The first invitation that was sent out was through the General Council of Russia in Edinburgh, Scotland. He said there are 17 spots open for people from Scotland and England to move their families to Russia. The next day, there were 10 requests. Canadians and Americans and Brits are moving to Russia. And the reason why? It's safe, it's good education, and there are some values that they agree to. And it's not communism, it's family values. So that shocked the heck out of me. And it's something that's happening. And it is a pushback on the kind of logic or illogic that applies to the Title IX argument. Okay, let's get to our first caller. I think it was Matthew first today. Matthew, how are you doing in soon-to-be wet Homa?
I'm doing okay. So they're telling us to pack up and get the flock out. So I'm doing just that.
Is Homa dead center? For those people who may be listening I want for those people who may be listening to the podcast or something outside of Louisiana, we have a hurricane barreling down on southeast Louisiana, and Homa is right kind of in the center of that cone, isn't it?
We are just, the last time I checked, of course, that's the problem, is that when I'm working, which, brings me to the 9/11 question.
Sure.
When I'm working, I don't have access to a TV.
Oh, man. That's brutal conditions.
Well, somebody's got to keep the ship on course and keep the
That's correct.
filled with coal.
Okay, so go ahead.
You brought up 9/11.
Yes.
I would say the main thing that it showed is there is a limit to the ability of military power and force to basically try to change an ideology by pointing a gun in somebody's head and says, change or else.
I would agree.
I think they're really trying to tell me to get out of here. They just turned the lights off.
Well, I think your deductive reasoning is as clear as it's ever been.
As far as the causes of 9/11, well, everybody blamed the wall that Jamie Gorelick constructed between the CIA and the FBI.
Sure.
And so they tore down that wall, and next thing you know, the CIA and the FBI are now running the country.
Well, yes, they ignored that part of the Patriot Act that was supposed to protect U.S. citizens from such surveillance. Yeah, they just kind of ignored that part.
Right, and it does kind of bring to me this question of, do the American people want to be free or do they want to be safe? Because I've often wondered that. Now, the debate tonight, they're not going to ask any meaningful questions. They're going to ask Donald Trump, why is he a racist? Why are his supporters neo-Nazis?
Yeah.
And will he sign a bill outlawing anti-Semitism?
Yeah.
They're basically going to try to drive his numbers down with his base.
Sure.
And basically elevate Kamala Harris as, they're going to try, but they're not going to get very much. But driving down Donald Trump's numbers is good enough for them.
Sure. Matthew, if you could, I'll give you a minute. Pose a question to Kamala Harris right now. If you were suddenly, you could ask one question, what would it be?
Does she have any good recipes for cat cooked in the Haitian style?
Well, I don't know her answer, but I'm sure it would be it would have something to do with the passage of time. THYME.
You have to let it marinate for enough time.
There you go. Hey, Matthew, get out of there. Good luck to you. Drive safely and have a good day. Call in tonight. Listen to the show at 9:30, and call in and let me have your thoughts on how ABC interrogators have failed.
Failed? You mean succeeded? Their mission. Remember, they have a different mission than you and I. They are not interested in saving the country.
Fully understand what you're saying.
Basically, global gay race communism.
There you go. Okay, be safe. Okay, do we have our second? We got time for the second caller? Let's get Rusty on, and he can hold through the break. Hey, Rusty, how are you today?
I'm pretty good, Jack. I'm sure glad y'all mentioned Francine.
Yes.
I'd like to reinforce those thoughts for a few seconds.
Sure.
The last I saw in the news, it's almost going to hit New Orleans. It's just a little bit to the west of New Orleans. I'm looking at.
Are we in the center of the cone?
Not in the center, but they moved it quite a lot to the east.
No.
Which means the strongest winds will be hitting us. And I just wanted to say one thought. If you know anybody who is sick, elderly, or anyone else who can't get out or can't fend for themselves, anybody who's listening out there who's capable of doing so, I wish they might look in for these people, because when these things happen, you don't know how long the lights are going to be out.
Sure.
And
yes.
what else is going to happen? So anyway.
No, that is an outstanding point. And I don't. I'm not going to rely on our mayor to come forward and do such a thing. But your point, anyone listening to this station right now and in our area, I tend to think if you can evacuate, do so. But if you are going to stay, you're taking on a responsibility. You really are. If you're here, you can get under the bed. You can decide to do that. But there are other people who aren't as fortunate. And I'm going to say duty, but people ignore their duties all the time.
We have to stop thinking that government has to do everything. We have to put our own.
We got to take a break. Hold on.
Okay.
We'll get right back in a break.
Okay.
Grace mean to you? At Grace of the Green Light, a 501c3 nonprofit, we believe that everyone deserves a hot meal, clean drinking water, and the chance to go home again. Our work is made possible through the generous support of Emery and James Limited, an independent insurance agent serving Covington, Hammond, and Metairie, Louisiana. Emery and James, serving our community for generations. Learn more at emeryjames.com.
Hey, Mimi, we love Wednesdays, but we're moving to a new time.
Listen to He Said, She Said, Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
As usual, we'll be discussing and debating the hot topics.
And taking your phone calls.
You can find out who's right. Of course, that's me.
No, wait, Jeff, I'm never wrong. Remember, happy wife, happy life.
So we'll have a lot to talk about on He Said, She Said.
Listen to the Crew of Crew Air, Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
Right here on WGSO.
When the time came, I knew I had to find a place where Mom would be safe and active while still feeling independent. A place that was close to all of us and everything she needed. Locally owned and operated in the heart of Gonzales, I found Francois Benz Senior Living. They specialize in independent and assisted living and memory care.
Call 225-647-BEND for more information on our special pre-leasing offers.
Francois Benz Senior Living. Experience life as it should be.
Hello, this is David Jeremiah. Join me each weekday morning at 5:30 or 6:30 for Turning Point here on Talk Radio 990 AM.
Join me, BJ Rust, every Saturday night for the Something to Say radio show on WGSO 990 AM and streaming live on WGSO.com.
Hey, fellow Patriots, I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
We're the Jambalaya Boys from the Holy and Patriotic Jambalaya Show.
Join us Friday night at 5 to 6 p.m. on WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com.
Louisiana Radio Network, I'm Andrew Greenstein. We just got an update within the last hour from the National Hurricane Center on what is still Tropical Storm Francine, and the big update here is that the path has shifted to the east. It's still packing maximum sustained winds of 65 miles an hour, no change from the 7 a.m. advisory, and it's still expected to become a hurricane. But now, the storm is on track to make landfall somewhere in St. Mary Parish and not Vermilion Parish. That also currently puts Baton Rouge directly in the line of the eye of the storm. Now, at this point, we don't know whether Francine will make landfall as a Category 1 hurricane or a Category 2 hurricane, and we also don't know what the strength will be by the time it hits Baton Rouge, barring any further shift in the track. Now, with Francine's arrival now just a day away, Insurance Commissioner Tim Temple is urging you to prepare your property now.
Please trim back any limbs or trees that are close to your home. Secure your furniture and your windows and doors. You don't want your furniture to become part of the debris that could damage your neighbors.
LRN.
Have you lost Louisiana Medicaid? At healthcare.gov, you can find a low-cost, quality health plan.
Do plans cover doctor visits?
What about emergency care?
And prescriptions?
All covered and more. Plus, with the new law, 4 out of 5 customers can find a plan for $10 or less per month with financial help. Healthcare.gov is here for you. Enroll today for coverage starting the 1st of next month. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
This is Isabella Hardy, the 86th International Rice Festival Queen, here to remind you that September is National Rice Month. I am honored to be part of the festivities celebrating our rice industry here in Louisiana, because some of the world's best rice is grown right here in our local communities. When you start with rice, you will always have a tasty, nutritious dish that everyone will love. For easy recipes, go to startwithrice.com.
Celebrate National Rice Month with Isabella and the proud farmers of certified Louisiana rice.
Hi, I'm William Wallace. You can hear me live on Tuesday nights at 5 o'clock here on WGSO, or see what I have to say on Facebook at William Wallace for America.
Tired of placing multiple calls to multiple vendors and getting the runaround? Turn to one resource who can get it done. Sir Speedy. We provide a wide spectrum of print, signs, and marketing services, all backed by more than 5 decades of experience. So when you need that new brochure, direct marketing campaign, or signage to promote your brand, give us a call at 504-586-9812 or visit us online at SirSpeedyNewOrleans.com. Everything you need, one resource, Sir Speedy.
Don't get stuck in boring talk radio. Give it a much-needed splash of laughs and a little Southern Louisiana flavor with Implicit Bias Radio. I'm Kavan Bordelon. Join the crew and I each Saturday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. as we give our thoughts on what's going down around the country. We'll crack open a fresh bottle of whiskey each week as we talk about what's swirling around in our heads and in the glasses. The Implicit Bias Radio Show, every Saturday morning, 7 to 9 a.m. on WGSO 990 a.m.
Negative news got you down? Tune in at 4 o'clock on Thursdays and turn your life around. Only good vibes on WGSO 990 AM.
Broadcasting from deep within the Louisiana Purchase, beneath spacious skies, overlooking the fruited plain, and smack dab in the land of the free. The American Ground Radio Program with Louis R. Abalone and Stephen Parr, where freedom grows. Listen each weeknight from 7 to 9 p.m. with Louis R. Abalone and Stephen Parr, here on WGSO 990 AM.
You might be afraid to speak out for fear of cancel culture or losing your job. Christian Garrick Show on WGSO is your platform. Noon to 2 weekdays right here on 990 AM WGSO.
All right, New Orleans, welcome back to the third segment of the Jack Clegg Show. Sorry, I had to cut you off abruptly. I didn't hear the music coming on my end. Rusty, are you still there?
Yes, I am, and that's okay. I understand you're dealing with those type of things.
Yes.
Okay, we dealt with the hurricane, at least momentarily, but I'd like to bring up the two things you brought up. Well, as far as if we're at risk for 19 people coming into this country, can you imagine how maybe 10 or 20 million put us at risk.
It's mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling.
It is. It is.
I don't think, like Matthew, and I think yourself, I don't think these people are going to be focused on that issue. I don't think they're going to focus on it, because if anybody was focused on that issue, they wouldn't even be considering putting Kamala in there. She went along pretty much with everything Biden did.
Sure.
And I heard that she was probably even more radical on the border issue than he was. This is what I've heard in the last 3.5 years. I'd like to also bring up something that probably won't put me on the most favorite list of a lot of people, maybe talk show hosts, certainly with women. If Kamala does win this race, it's going to be the half probably of the majority of women. Not a big majority, but certainly a majority. And these women today, in my mind, are self-absorbed, cosmetic, and not concerned with issues such as the border, which is putting us all in danger. And the truth of the matter is, as you said, they don't speak up for their own issues regarding sports, but they also don't speak up for issues when women have problems around the world, in Muslim countries, and in Hindu countries where women are treated terribly. They stay on the safe, politically correct side. And they don't speak. Go ahead.
I couldn't agree more. Let me try to though, because not all men are the same. We have Bernie Sanders, and we have Donald Trump. Okay, so not all men are the same. We have some men that will never fight in a war. They will be conscientious objectors. We have other men who get drafted and they will want to be on the front lines because they love the country so much, and their form of patriotism, they see it as their duty to go do this. So, so we were talking about Title IX, which is relevant to what you mentioned, and how women's groups have been totally silent about Biden and Harris changing Title IX. Title IX did not allow universities or other related entities to discriminate against women. Biden changed that, and he's being challenged. The Supreme Court hasn't heard it yet. They're going to knock it out of the ballpark when they get it. But Biden believes there shouldn't be discrimination against genders. And what he's doing is substituting genders for sex. And by doing that, the female sex, who was the primary beneficiary of Title IX, is no longer a beneficiary of the government's protection. So the question is, you gotta wonder what is really behind these organized women's groups. I mean, some women are indifferent towards lots of things. Many women take the position that you and I and Patty and others, we talk about women's rights should be protected. And men pretending to be women should not be allowed in their locker rooms or to compete against them. But there are no organizations of women saying that. The existing organizations, let's use this for example. The women that are in favor of an abortion. Okay, my body, my choice. Why aren't they saying, hey, men, you can't jump into our pool, okay, because you're men. We like to support. You can send us money. You can write letters to the editor supporting our positions. But we're not in favor of abolishing sex as a determination of your eligibility to play sports. And that's all it is. And when President Biden and Vice President Harris changed Title IX, they said we're not making any distinctions between men and women, essentially knocking out the protections of Title IX for women. I don't see the rational, logical motivation. If there's a woman out there who can answer this question, please call. I'd love to hear the reason why women's groups are silent about this.
Well, can I add?
Certainly, yes, please.
I think it's our fault too. I was listening to Donald Trump in the last week, and he talked about during the Olympics, there was a man pretending to be a woman in a boxing ring.
Yes, there were two. Yes, there were. Yes.
And one of the women, according to him, I didn't see it, according to President Trump, got hit once or twice, and she said she had enough.
Mm-hmm. I saw that fight. Yeah.
And Trump said this twice. I've seen two different speeches at two different rallies. It's our fault too, because we refuse to say this. And I've asked people who are talk show hosts to say this, and they get very paranoid, that men are stronger than women. It's not enough, as one of the talk show hosts said on this station, to say that they're different. We all know that we're different.
Sure.
It doesn't take a genius to know it. That we're stronger. And we don't want to acknowledge our place as men anymore in society. We're willing to become something else rather than men.
Oh,
and
okay.
women
I see what you're saying.
Don't feel inspired by that type of impressions from men. So to some degree, women that don't fall in line are saying, I don't want to take the chance and be non-politically correct in our society. So I'm not going to say anything. But it's their fault too, because if they got brains, they should know what's happening at the border. They should know the issues of defunding the police are going to affect them probably more than anybody else. If they got minds, they should know these things too. But on the other hand, we're too afraid because of ratings, and I mean conservative shows too, and because of pop culture, going against what's a pop culture, to say some things that make women look smaller or weaker. I don't want to say smaller in the best, weaker than what we are. But the thing is, we have to, if we're going to influence the women, we need to inspire these women. But the women also need to say, we got to look beyond our own concerns, such as if they believe in abortion. I'm not that I'm advocating it, but if they do believe that, there are other things in the country besides that. And if they vote for this Kamala, they're voting to destroy this country. I don't have no question in my mind about that.
Yeah.
So that's about it.
Well, and it leads on to one of the other issues I wanted to talk about. And that issue is, and what surprised the heck out of me this morning when I was doing the research, is that the Russians are inviting the British, other Europeans, Americans, and Canadians to come to Russia and live there. They are waiving the Russian exam. Usually to get in, you have to take a language exam. You have to be able to speak Russian. That's been waived. They're waiving their immigration quotas. So each group in Russia, each group of people, there is a quota of how many Russia will allow in. They're waiving that, and people are signing up for it left and right. Are we near a break right now? 1 minute. Let me finish this, and we'll go into the last segment. But the reason they're doing it, and the article I read talked to several people that were doing it, is for our children. At least in Russia, there are values. There's none of this transgender stuff. If you have a transgender issue, we send you to a psychiatrist because you may be having some thought issues, not physical issues, but thought issues that you may want to get straightened. 100% of high school graduates in Russia are literate. 86% in America. All right, we got to go. We'll be back in a moment with Jack Clegg Show.
Hi, I'm Huck.
And this is Dave.
Please join us on Liberty or Lockdown on Thursdays at 5 p.m.
Be there. Join me, J.C. Smith, on Stay Safe NOLA, Mondays at 5 p.m. as I discuss crime and how to stay safe in the Crescent City. Stay Safe NOLA, only on WGSO 990 AM.
Chef Jamie Gwen here. Tune in for delicious conversation and let me feed your soul every Sunday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. right here on WGSO 990 AM, the community voice of the Crescent City.
Hi, this is Susan Berniker bringing you a new show, Health Connections, every Wednesday afternoon at 5 p.m. Doctors, researchers, authors, and more. Join me Wednesdays at 5 o'clock right here on WGSO 990 AM.
If you're suffering with scalp irritation or inflammation of the scalp, maybe flaky scalp or loss of hair, there's a new treatment out there called Ceravive. Call Spot Isabel on Magazine Street, 504-595-5009. $3.99 per session. You'll need about 3 sessions. That's 504-595-5009. Spa Isabel.
Hey, did you hear the Britannia Bar Uptown has a whole lot of new live entertainment going on? Every Wednesday night at 8 p.m., they alternate either stand-up comedy or classic movie showings. Thursday at 9 is themed karaoke. They have live music on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday starting at 9 p.m., and every Monday is blues night starting at 6. Plus, they have the longest shuffleboard table in the city, a 22-footer. Wow! Located on the corner of Britannia and Delachaise Street, right across from Touro Hospital. Come check out all of the fun at the Britannia Bar.
I'm pet trendologist Charlotte Reed. Listen to the Pet Buzz airing every Saturday at 6 p.m. on WGSO 990 AM, the community voice of the Crescent City.
Got your license to grill? Call Chew on This, Saturdays at noon on WGSO, and tell us all about it. Don Clement and Patty B are waiting to hear your cooking secrets.
Real Talk with Revolution is back. This is Effie, and I've brought along some new friends.
Nikki D here. We'll be talking real estate, real life, and everything in between.
Please join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on WGSO 990 AM and streaming live at WGSO.com.
Howdy, everybody. This is Jackie Gumbo inviting you to join me each and every Sunday from 5 to 6 p.m. for Uncle Jackie's Gumbo. A little bit of this and a whole lot of that each and every Sunday from 5 to 6 p.m. only on WGSO 990 AM New Orleans or WGSO.com. Bring your gumbo, baby. We're going to have us a blast.
All right, New Orleans, welcome back to the fourth and final segment of the Tuesday morning edition of the Jack Clegg Show. Remember this evening at 9:30 to dial into WGSO or look at the Jack Clegg Show on YouTube because we're doing the post-debate analysis show. And I say we, Jeff Greer is going to join me. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen today. Most people have put a very low bar on the two ABC interrogators. Most people aren't expecting much. These two individuals can make history. They can. And it all depends on whether they are being partisans or whether they're being journalists. And I'm sure that Trump, they're not going to have any problems asking Trump difficult questions, but they are going to have problems doing the same with Kamala. And so in the last segment, again, any callers that wish to call at 504-556-9696 and give us their questions, let us know. Is Rusty still there? Or is he's gone? Okay. And we've had a couple of callers, and the two issues that I focused on, and I don't know how you could do this debate on the eve of 9/11 and not ask a question about all of the unknown people in the United States. When I say unknown people we don't know their histories, we don't know their intentions, we have no idea about them. And I'm not suggesting that the government's job is to know everything about everybody. Okay? When you're born here or you move here and you're here legally, you develop a life. You have a school you went to. You have a job you did. You have neighbors. There's ways to find out about you. We've got adults, millions of them, who came here. Now, is somebody going to suggest that there are no enemies of America? Is someone going to suggest that no one that has come here illegally has bad faith? And by bad faith, I mean they don't want America to succeed. They want America to fail. I saw a report last night on a town in Ohio. This town is called Springfield, Ohio. It, several years ago, had a population of 60,000 people. 60,000. And over the years, the population dropped to 40,000. That's the current population. Except this January, 20,000 new people came in to this town in Ohio. Where'd they come from? Well, our federal government brought them here. Where did they come from? Haiti. Why Haiti? Well, Haiti's government dissolved. Who's in charge of Haiti? Gangs, criminal gangs. Who are these 20,000 people? Are they part of the gangs? Are they part of people that stole the billions of dollars in aid that came from America and Europe to Haiti for the last number of years? Well, we don't know, but we do know this. There's 20,000 of them living in Springfield, Ohio. We also know this. Did the people of Springfield, Ohio take a vote? No. But they're there. So I accept the fact, and this is another issue that's a huge issue with me. I accept the fact that we have had, over the last 2 decades, a international migration of people moving from place to place. They don't like the place they're in. They don't like the government they're in. They want a better life. So they leave Africa. They leave the Middle East. They leave Asia. They leave all these places. There aren't many Americans that are leaving, except those few that are going to Russia right now. But there aren't many Americans leaving because we have a country that essentially succeeds. And I certainly understand. I understand why people of good faith would want to come to America and have a better life. I understand that. But here's your choice. Here's our government's choice under President Biden. It's a real simple choice. Okay. Do you let everybody in without knowing who they are, what their plans are, what their backgrounds are? Just, if you can walk, you can get in. If that's one choice, okay? The other choice is to decide, well, if we are not letting anyone enter the country except through a port of entry. Well, the Biden administration and Harris decided that's not going to be the law. We're going to let people come in wherever. And if they get caught, we're not going to deport them immediately. They're going to say political asylum, those 2 words, political asylum, and we're going to give them a notice to appear, and into the country they go. So the choice of our government has been to not get in the way for 4 years. Why would you do that? Why would you do it? That would be a great question tonight. Why, in your administration, Vice President Harris, was the choice made to allow all these people to come in without knowing who they are? it's almost okay. So what happened during the last 4 years when anybody would say something? You're a racist. You're a xenophobe. You're racist. You hate people from other countries. No. We saw what happened on 9/11 when only 19 were here and what they did. I was saying I was going to tell my story about where I was. Okay. On 9/11, which is, I had the good pleasure. I was practicing law. I was in New York City. I had to appear in Philadelphia. So I had 2 days in New York. I did business there with other cases I was handling. I did maritime work. There's a lot of insurance companies that have offices there that I have had to deal with them and so forth. Okay. So on September 11th, I get on a train at Penn Central. It goes underneath the World Trade Center. No big deal. I'd done that before. I'm leaving, going under the Hudson River, get into New Jersey, and the train comes up out of the tunnel, and someone's phone rings in the train cabinet I'm in, and suddenly they say, "Oh my gosh, a amateur pilot flew his little plane, his Cessna, into the world." Oh, everybody's like, "Oh, that's okay." About 10 minutes later, everybody's phone went off, and that's when the big liner hit. And we learned from people calling us that a 747, I believe it was, had hit. When I got to Pennsylvania, when I got to Philadelphia, the train station was completely cordoned off with yellow tape. It was done. We were the last train coming in. And my associate was with me, Daphne McNutt, and we found a taxi. We get to the taxi, the driver was crying. It was a man, he was Muslim. He said, "They will not let us stay in this country anymore." Sadly, he was wrong. Anyway, thanks for listening today. And tonight, 9:30, tune into WGSO or look at YouTube for our second show today. Hope the debate goes well. Folks, have a good day. And if you can leave, I'd get out of here. Francine is nothing to fool with. Have a good evening.
Hey folks, it's Jeff Cruier. I've been with WGSO for 17 years as host and now president and general manager. WGSO is a community-based radio station, a nonprofit, locally operated. We believe in cultivating local talent and emphasizing local programs. If you have an interest in hosting your own program, then we have some prime spots available for you. Take advantage of this